As you can see, when we power this particular machine on, we have got a smashed screen here. It's damaged in the bottom here, there's cracks, and you can see the liquid crystal of the liquid crystal display just bleeding out like ink blots, and we've got these characteristic lines going up and down. This is a smashed screen. The battery and the power must be removed from the laptop. If you try to fit the screen with the laptop powered, then you can actually short the connector and you'll damage the motherboard and the screen. Here's a typical set of tools that you'll need to replace any laptop screen. The most important one is a small screwdriver. Usually this will be a Phillips type head. You can buy a set of small screwdrivers like that from your local hardware store or online. Some people will need a small sharp knife. I'll come on to that later. And a debit card can be very handy, or a guitar pick. The next thing we need to do is open our laptop and actually have an examination here of how the screen is actually put together. So in this particular one, we can see that there is a plastic frame around it, which is called a bezel. And we've got these small rubber dust covers here. This is where our knife will come in handy to remove those. So I'll show you that in a minute, but we're going to have a look at some other laptops to just get an idea of how the lids are put together on different machines. Here's another one. This one, it looks the same as the other one. It's got the plastic frame or bezel, but this one actually doesn't have any dust covers here. So we can assume that this particular one doesn't appear to have any screws holding the plastic frame or the bezel on the front. This laptop is slightly different in that this one doesn't actually have any bezel or plastic frame. We've got just smooth glass all the way to the edge of the screen here. Now these kind of laptops, I'm going to say, are professional installation only usually. A professional would use a heat gun on this glass all the way around the glass. So we'll start with an easy one first. We're going to remove the bezel from this Lenovo ThinkPad. This is where our debit card or credit card comes in handy. What we want to do is just get that underneath the plastic and just nudge that apart all the way around. Once we've got a piece off, we can then just very carefully pull it, and it's like one of these plastic snapping mechanisms that snap back together when we put it back. Now sometimes you'll find that the manufacturer has used a bit of double-sided tape at the bottom here. So in those cases you might feel like it's very stuck and you can't get it away. That's again where our debit card is handy to kind of separate that tape if there is any. And then the bezel literally just comes off like that. Now this particular screen is actually just sitting in the lid of the laptop, and I can actually just pull it forwards.
Some screens have stretch release tape, which is fitted behind the LCD screen and holds the screen into place, and you'll often find pull tabs at the top or the bottom of the screen where you can pull out the tape and then the LCD screen will fall out.
Now the screen connector is here, and as you can see it's like a kind of bar which comes down and pushes over the connector. If your laptop screen has got this bar, then you need to lift this up first. Not all of them do, as we'll see when we do some other models. But once that's up, then the connector will just literally just pull out the bottom. This laptop is the same in that it doesn't have any screws in the corners, so we can use our credit card again or debit card to just prise away. This machine has a slightly different style bezel here, in that we can see in the corners we've got some dust covers. Now this is where our sharp knife comes in handy. So using the sharp knife, I'm going to get it just underneath this dust cover and lift it away carefully, and we can see we've got a small screw under there, and I'm going to keep this in a safe place. Once we've removed the covers from each corner, we can use a small screwdriver such as this one to just take these screws out. We'll keep those in a safe place. If they won't come out, lift them out of the hole there. They may just be stuck in there with a little bit of glue. Now the screws are out. We do our same trick with our card. Some people can actually use their fingernails for this. It obviously just depends on how your fingernails are, but I found a place there I can get it in, and we can start to just gently come around here. I can feel there's a bit of tape there holding that in, but as you can see, that's now starting to come apart. Now I'm going to be careful with this because this is quite a small laptop and I can see that this particular bezel is delicate. I always recommend that you keep your screws in a little container, a little shot glass, something like that, plastic lid, because they're very easy to lose, they're very small, and these screws are not standard kinds of screws, so if you lose them you won't be able to replace them, so look after the screws. Here our screen is actually fitted in a slightly different way, in that we've actually got screws in the corners here holding the screen in each corner, so these will have to be removed. So I'll just remove the tape which is holding the connector on. I'm going to be very careful not to damage the cable there when I remove that. But this connector, if we look at it, it actually doesn't have any wire clip coming around this holding it on. So this one literally just pulls off. It's almost falling off on its own. There we go. And now we can remove the screen. This kind of laptop, where you see the screen actually falls behind the base there, it's on a hinge there and it sits below the base of the laptop. These can sometimes be a little bit problematic in that sometimes you have to take the screws out of the bottom of the machine and take the base off, and then you'll actually unscrew the hinges. On this particular machine, we can actually find that there are actually a couple of screws here under the rubber feet on here as well. Once the base comes away, we're left with something like this, and then what we can see is in the corners here, the hinges of this lid are actually screwed in there. We've got 2 screws here and 2 in this corner which we're going to take out. So once the screws are removed, the lid will actually come away from the base like this, but we want to be very careful because we don't want to damage the cable which comes from the base of the machine and plugs into the screen. Now the cable that runs to the screen, I'm just going to unplug it from here and it just pulls off like this, and I'm take away the base. And that just snaps off and comes away like so. Again, we've got a little bit of manufacturer's sticky tape here, which I'm just going to remove. You can usually pick this off with a nail, and I'll just take that off carefully without damaging the cable. You have to be careful. So that's it. And then this one, just like most of them do these days, it just pulls off. That's it. So now we have our screen free of the machine, free of the lid, and we can replace it. We'll take our replacement screen out of the box, and there's a couple of things I need to tell you about this, but they often come with this protective film which is over the glass. Now this is quite a thick kind of plastic, and this you leave that on until you've fitted it. Now some screens also have another layer of film on them which I'm going to show you now. So fitting the new screen is exactly the reverse of the removal. I'm just going to lay a plastic bag that the screen came in over the top of the keyboard, but anything soft will be fine. And I just lay the new screen on top of there, and we can see the cable here. We just need to plug the cable back in. So here we are, we're going to refit the cable. Now it's very important that the cable is fitted correctly and straight and not at any angles. You'll know when it's gone in properly because it will fit just nicely and make a good connection here. You don't want this to go in lopsided or half in like this. You want a nice clean connection, because if the cable is misfitted, you can risk damaging the machine and the screen. Now most laptops, that's all you need to do, but this one has this extra bar that goes out over there. Reconnecting the connector on this one is simple again. This one just pushes in, and again we've got to make sure that it's in straight and that there's no twist in this cable. These cables mustn't be twisted or put in taut. That's got to be straight. And of course then we can replace the tape that the manufacturer used to just hold that in place there like that. Now the screen just sits back I just tilt it back and it just sits back in place where it was before. I can take away the plastic bag. Some screens, as we said, they will have different fittings. Some of them will have screws in the corners that you have to replace. This particular one doesn't. Usually the laptops with thinner lids, but they don't have the screws that you need to replace. And then the bezel, I just sit it back in place and it'll literally just push. You hear it snapping, and I just push that in all the way around until we have it in nicely. So this machine, again, we're going to start with the bezel at the bottom, clip it into place, make sure that it's flush here properly, and then we just work our way around, snapping that back into place. And this one actually had some screws that we need to replace in the corners and some little plastic covers, so I'm just going to do that now. If you find there is still a little bit of a gap here between the bezel and the screen, that it's not fitting flush to the screen as you want, it may be that you haven't got the bezel on correctly and you may need to take that off gently again and refit it. All I've done here is just remove the bezel again and refit it here from the left to the right, and I've got it flush this time.